right down to it, it wasn't even, it's not.
Sorry, I'm late again.
Hi, Joe.
How you doing?
The project isn't even in the LWRP.
Right.
LWRA. I mean, it's very close. It could barely be any more just outside. You know, like if you measure 500 feet from 9G, it's probably 200 feet, it's probably 200 feet, and it needs to be 500 to be in. And if you come off of Post Road, right at the corner where it intersects 9G, it's about 450 feet to where that project is. But if you go back the 500 feet, it kind of cancels out. It's so, and actually having that map and having that information written out as it is in the cab guide is a really useful bit of information, because my previous understanding was that everything west of Route 9 was in.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't realize that it changed north of the village, and that's why we should be looking at these maps every time.
Right.
Let me call my son. Let me call Cole and find out why he's not on.
Mm-hmm.
Have a forum.
And it looked like Gabby was expected to join us.
Yeah, she said she would.
Who's on the phone?
We have a 518 number, somebody.
Oh, I don't know who that is. We don't have a voice.
Might be a member of the public.
Maybe.
Well, they didn't get the invite.
Yeah, this wasn't.
The invite went to a specific list of people.
Right, because this wasn't wasn't posted on the calendar. Just make this quick call, and then I'll just say I'll respond to what you said, Craig. Because we're not rubber stamping, we're supporting, but we're not stirring things up, especially things that we don't understand. And there was a lot we didn't understand with that Gardens Homes, and you're still, Cole, why don't you sign into our meeting? You want to sign into our meeting? Yeah, it is. Okay. All right, thanks.
Well, yeah, Mark, and that's where it would be useful to have more than 10 days.
Oh, this one. Yeah, this one was definitely short.
Yeah.
But again, we on this one we had lawyers on both sides. It was a very thick and long history, and we walked in not knowing anything and started just stirring it up. And we would have set up we were ready to create a big mess. That would have gotten so ugly with some of the things that were written. So we kept it narrow as it should be. When we walk on site, I always assume, I take it for what I see. You're looking at, oh, this was done already. If it was done already, then somebody should notice. There was a letter that was written that you gave us as like background information, and every paragraph talked about how Michelle Turk was wrong, and she was wrong, and she was wrong, and she was wrong. She's the zoning administrator for the town. She's the one who makes those interpretations. She's not wrong. She's the authority to interpret, and we're not going to tell her she's wrong. She knows the zoning better than we. We don't even know the process, and we didn't even know Michelle Turk existed before the last meeting.
Right.
So for us somehow to be some authority on zoning in the town and to tell people that they're wrong or that Michelle Turk is wrong, that's not our purpose. Our purpose is to support. There he is.
Okay. Well, one of the things that occurred to me in kind of looking into this project was the, what did you call them, SPDs or SPD?
Let's call this meeting to motion or to order or to whatever. We have a quorum, so let's move to the official.
Second.
Okay. Yay. Nay. Yay. Yay. Okay. Now we're in order.
Hi.
Who else? Is that Gabby? Is that you?
Yeah, I've been here.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Gabby.
We could have been a quorum already. I didn't know that was you.
Oh, no.
So, okay, we have some, we're talking about, and before we started, we were talking about Gardens Home Project. We had a few projects over the last month. And the
Yeah.
Garden Homes was a very interesting one. Craig took it. I ended up being the final, putting my name to the report. And it was a good learning process for all of us. And we had a great opportunity to get the board and the town in big, big trouble. We have,
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I don't think
You take our board down then?
I don't think you need to look at it that way. And you know, you're accusing me of stirring things up, and that was not my intention.
No.
But I think that what I was trying to do is identify the resources that might be impacted and bring up
Yeah.
issues that might be impactful. And I see that as our mission. If we have a different mission, then you should let me know what it is. But
Yeah.
in looking, as I was saying before we called to order, in looking into this project, I looked into those permits, and there are databases where you can find the history, and there are some that have been issued in the past that have been abandoned. Like I think the Beekman Arms is in there, and the Beekman Arms is now on the village sewage, so they don't need the discharge permit.
I was referring to the Speedies permit, which is
Yeah.
you get from DEC whenever you.
Okay, it's called the Speedies permit. This
Yeah.
is what I wanted to know. There was a Speedies permit that was issued for Vandenberg Cove.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you know the history of Vandenberg Cove,
No.
but it was a private sewage treatment system that served 40 homes along Cove Road. Some of them are in the town of Rhinebeck, some of them are in the town of Hyde Park. And at some point, the private owner stopped maintaining the system. And it got overridden by, I think it's II, which is infiltration and
Infiltration is inflow and infiltrate.
inflow and infiltration, right?
Yeah. Inflow.
Because it was accepting a lot of stormwater. Anyway, it created a huge mess. The town had to take it over. The town actually owned and operated the system for a while, right around 2010. They tried to put an assessment on everybody in the district, and it was going to be very expensive for each of the people to pay for this system. And I believe what the outcome, and I don't know if it's a final outcome or not, but where it stands now, Dutchess County, DCWWA, now owns and operates that system. So again, a private system that serves 40 homes. The system at Garden Homes serves 40 homes. So it's similarly sized. It's privately run and privately maintained. And same thing, operating with the discharge permit. So, where outside of this permit can things go wrong, and what happens when they do? And what are the long-term impacts if, the town has to step in and clean up the mess?
Well, there's conditions in the permit, and part of the conditions of the permit, and it's also Dutchess County is also involved in the oversight. In fact, they also approved the plans for this project, Dutchess County, and they also got their permit from the DEC for the discharge. And that permit has conditions, and usually those conditions have to meet parameters. So Glenn even said they do monthly sampling and reporting, which they turn in.
Okay, well, they do a daily sampling of chlorine.
Oh, that's good.
I believe the sampling for the BOD 5.
Okay.
I think that's annual.
Okay.
A lot of the parameters in that permit were annual grab samples.
Okay.
Which was another thing that I'm curious about is, where are they taking the sample from? And previous to this, they had been just walking, onto the neighbor's yard and taking the sample from the outfall, which was right there.
But
and now the outfall is, 1,000 feet away. So are they grabbing it from where? From the sump pump, from the chlorination tank?
Well, first of all, obviously you don't understand it. But wherever they're allowed, they would take it from the outfall. The sample, I would think they're probably the outfall, or they have someplace, maybe they could have it just beyond the dechlorination before it goes, because now they're pumping. So they're pumping to their outfall. So they could take it now from, yes, just past their dechlorination flow. Whatever their outfall is, what's coming out of it is what they're probably sampling. And it's really through the Dutchess County is how they do all that. It's not like they're on their own and nobody's looking at what they're doing and it's just a free for all. This is approved through the county. That's usually inspected through the county. They're giving their sample results, and they take their grab samples however they're supposed to do it. I'm not going to tell you specifically how. I don't know exactly the location they're taking their sample, and I don't know if it's really relevant to us exactly where they take their sample. As long as they're satisfying the conditions of their permit, we should be good, and we shouldn't be questioning whether they're going to satisfy that. They've been in existence for quite a long time, and I don't see that there's been an issue with them satisfying their permit. So to suggest that they're not going to satisfy their permit in the future is pure speculation without any.
What are the chances?
Well, what's the chances of anybody? Well, the village could have an issue. I mean, there's just. And if there's a problem with their, are you unsatisfied with this?
I'm not issuing the permit.
Right.
It's not up to me to issue the wetlands permit, but I think it's a valid point to say that there's at least the possibility that things are going to go wrong. And if things go wrong, what are the impacts going to be on the wetlands?
And there's another
and on the town's environment.
And there's another thing. We don't really seem to understand wetlands. We don't understand. We seem to be protecting something that we don't really have an understanding of the purpose of the wetlands.
Thank you, because I think I understand it a little better than I did before this. And this has kind of been a learning process for me, because the DEC doesn't protect wetlands that are less than 12.7 acres. They don't care. Town of Rhinebeck does enforce 100-foot buffer zone around any wetlands that are on the federal wetlands inventory.
And what are we protecting them from?
Well, we enforce a 100-foot buffer zone.
Why? The reason we want wetlands to take the water. We want water to go to the wetlands. We don't want to divert water away from the wetlands. We always want water to go to the wetlands. The wetlands is a natural filtration for water. Wetlands are used often as a form of final filtration, even in sewage treatment. Now, in this case, it wasn't.
I understand. Do we want chlorinated water?
It's not chlorinated water. I thought they have, that's why they go through dechlorination.
What was their dechlorination process? They have a contact tank and they measure daily, and the guy says he just turns the valve,
Oh, they don't.
Is it activated charcoal or something, maybe? That usually will take out chlorine.
This is a designed system, designed by an engineer, that's approved by the county and approved by the state. They must have taken that into consideration. We're not the ones who know nothing about it suddenly know more than they do about how the system should function. Usually dechlorination could just be time in a contact tank. All it takes is time exposed to the air, and then that chlorine is going to evaporate out of the water. So chlorine doesn't stay in the water indefinitely. It comes out with time. Now, I don't know what their system is. I didn't look at the design that closely. I am confident that it's acceptable. It meets the standards. It's approved.
Right. It meets the state's standard
And the county.
As far as the state is concerned,
And the county.
you're not discharging into a protected wetland, so go ahead. Here's your permit. Because it's less than 12.7 acres. But for the
No,
town of Rhinebeck, we have a stricter standard. So where do we bring that up?
no.
No,
It's
we don't have a
approved
stricter
by the
standard.
county. Dutchess County Health Department approves all of these, approves and oversees all of these systems.
Right.
If there was a problem, they would bring it to our attention.
And
Believe
well, I
me, if
think
there's a
if you read-
problem,
I think if you read their permit in the first paragraph, it says that this is okay by us as long as it's okay with your, whatever local authorities might apply. And basically ask your local conservation advisory board. And if they're asking people who don't really know
no,
if we have stricter standards or what those standards are, then, that's kind of pointless.
No.
Did you read the permit? Because it's in the first paragraph of their permit.
I'm very comfortable that the parameters of the permit are satisfy the regulatory authorities over this process.
Okay, well,
Maybe we should go
you have to-
on to something else, because this is details that you guys can handle outside this meeting, I think, if you'd like, but
Okay.
while we move on to something
But
else.
the whole point is that we need to just keep our reports neutral. We don't ever want to attack our town, attack our applicant, attack anybody, our architects. We don't attack.
Pointing out facts is not attacking.
What's that?
I don't see how pointing out facts is attacking.
You aren't pointing out any facts. You're speculating what would happen if chlorine goes into a wetland. That's not a fact. So, but if we just bring out facts, we'll all be good. If all we do is bring out facts and present them to the board, we don't tell them how to decide. We don't tell them they must do anything. We don't tell them how to vote. We just tell them, these are the facts. We want you to be aware of this, and then we can move on. That's quite simple. George had a project. But anyway, just to wrap it up with the Garden Homes, the report, which got scaled down to just the simplest of perspectives of what the project was embraced by the planning board because it didn't ruffle feathers. It allowed them to keep the focus. It brought to attention the concerns of potential erosion and disturbance to the stream, which was a concern. And they asked me to present it, and I did present it. And I was at the planning board meeting two times ago. And it was not difficult for me to prepare for that meeting. I read the agenda before I went on the meeting. I pulled out all the reports that were presented that were on the agenda. And I presented one of Joe's reports. Then there was another project, Joe, that they came up with, and there was some concern about the stream. I think I reminded you of that. So we'll update that report. And then so I made my showing for the CAB, and they were thankful. I just give them some information and let them run the show, because the planning board has a lot of work, and they're really not trying to. They just want to kind of get through the process as quickly and easily without making it harder or stirring up emotions. They don't want to stir up emotions at these meetings. They just want to get through the business and move on and move on.
Why do we have to care about people's feelings?
We're not running for office.
No, we're not. What is our purpose? What is our purpose?
We don't want to upset people by, bringing up uncomfortable facts like,
I would argue.
This isn't really a repair. It's actually an alteration of your system, and you really ought to get a building permit for that.
Okay, so as you want to talk to the planning board or to Michelle Turk and say that there was a problem in the past? Do you want to help represent their attorney? I don't understand why you're going into that. There was a decision made by Michelle Turk. She said you don't need. She said it was an existing system. and they're allowed to maintain an existing system without getting that permit. And that makes sense to me. What do they got? If they have an issue, they have to
Yeah,
wait.
it's their call. It's the planning board's call, right? It's not our call.
It's not our call.
But we don't have to agree with them, though.
Well, agree with the planning board. What's our, I don't understand what our purpose is.
I understand an overwhelming desire to always remain as diplomatic as possible. But given that there's going to occasionally be divisiveness with some of these applications, it's inevitable that should we disagree, we're going to find ourselves then having to figure out how to do so diplomatically. But I don't think we should just essentially, if we genuinely do feel that they have erred in a judgment call, then I think we have to figure out how it is we should both best diplomatically air our difference of opinion.
Yeah, well, I think one thing we could do if we find in a disagreement with the planning or zoning board is talk to them ahead of time before we put it on paper, because maybe there's something we don't know, or maybe there's something that they didn't know without getting.
So yeah, I mean,
again,
certainly if we find ourselves in a divisive setting, then of course, all of the information that we can possibly tap into in order to clear up any potential misunderstanding is of course going to be beneficial.
right. And this project would have benefited in that way by having more time between when we got the project and when the report was due. I mean,
that was one that definitely should have,
I think because we are in effect an adjunct to the planning board that are allowed to come to our own conclusions, it's inevitable that at some point we're going to disagree with them.
Yeah, well, and it's conclusions are not really in our purview.
Yeah.
It's up to us to raise issues.
Exactly.
And, don't raise an issue because somebody might get upset. Well, if it's an issue, if it's a valid point, then bring it up.
I didn't think any of your points were valid. That's why I crossed them out. I thought they were wrong, so I had to delete them. If there were valid issues, I would certainly want them, but it became more emotional issues and bringing up things of the past that really weren't relevant to the current project. And the planning board wanted to keep the focus as well. I see us as supporting the planning board, not trying to make their jobs more difficult. And the best way we can support them is just to give them information and just be another set of eyes to give them information. And we don't disagree with the planning board. They're going to decide what they want. They have the authority to make decisions, not us. I hope that we're just giving them information. What happens is the more we start to go off and come up with all this other additional stuff, it will devalue and lose strength in our reports.
I think it's just as easily, we're just as easily dismissed if it's guaranteed we're always going to agree with everything that they decide.
Yours was dismissed by the ZBA because it told them how to decide.
Exactly.
They dismissed it because that's not our function to don't tell them how to decide. We are not.
Do it exactly the same way all over again, even in light of having lost. I would not.
Well, we didn't lose because we should never set ourselves to be in a position to lose because we are not a deciding board. We're just helping to give them information.
I think they made a terrible judgment call on that.
And unfortunately, I don't think that your report was discarded. I think it was the only one of the year that was discarded by the ZBA.
Which one? Which
one?
project?
The fence.
The fence.
Well,
okay.
If I may be so bold as to say, having listened in on their meeting, it was the head of the ZBA who decided to not air it.
Right.
So I don't think that was particularly fair, and says a lot potentially about how much weight they feel a CAB report has on their decision-making process.
Well,
there were no other members of that board that knew anything about my opinion. They
knew it.
What's that?
They knew it. See,
no, they did not. They did not read my report.
Because they were told what it said, and they didn't want to go down that road.
Well, that's their own. They had the opinion of a CAB member. They chose to not familiarize themselves with the actual wording of that site visit report.
Because
which
your
I
report
still
was
feel-
not helpful.
What's that?
Your report was not helpful to their decision.
How is it not helpful when you're talking about something that was flagrantly disregarding already established rules and, moreover, was something that was specific to the aesthetic and visual impact and character of that surrounding neighborhood? That, in effect, means that it has to be inherently subjective to a degree. So for them to not even bother to hear why I was dissenting on it, I don't think that has anything to do with what I actually wrote.
Well,
That's
I
them
think you're-
feeling entitled to not have to concern themselves with
No.
what Cab's position was.
It's absolutely what you wrote, and
You're
just
saying that if I had just kissed their ass and said, "Yeah, you guys do whatever you want,"
no, if you had
that they
brought
would have welcomed it with open arms?
no, I think if you had wrote it in a neutral fashion, it wasn't. They didn't tell them how to vote, how to decide. You should just bring up
How
what the
else
issues
do
are.
you relay a dissenting opinion then? I don't
We're not supposed to tell them how to decide. That's where. But anyway, I guess we're not going to agree on how to write a report.
I think
and-
just an overarching desire for everybody to come to a consensus is overrated.
Right, and all
Yeah,
I'm going to suggest is that the simpler you keep it and the more factual you keep it, the more value
Well, I
those
kept it
reports are going to have.
factual. They fucked up that neighborhood, and
Pardon me.
they did.
That's opinion, right? That's opinion, right? Maybe some people
Well,
liked it.
And that's why they couldn't use that report, because that's what came across.
Well,
And you can't. That doesn't help. They're just trying. They're just trying to get through the process and keep it as fair
I
and
don't agree with that.
reasonable and
It makes it very uncomfortable for them to do what the homeowner wants.
I think it was our responsibility to call out what that homeowner was doing to his neighborhood.
Yeah, well, and it's, sometimes you're put into an uncomfortable position, and the issue that we're raising is an opinion, and why pretend that opinion doesn't exist?
okay,
Exactly. I mean, I stand by my opinion about that. I think it was a very poor judgment call on the part of that board.
Yeah, but
Really,
also
the whole reason why we have zoning in the first place is so that we can have a nice cohesive community. And
it was our job to remind them that
if we fail to enforce, then or if the zoning board fails to enforce aspects of their own rules, then there are going to be consequences. And
you know what? See, you got it wrong. That's why you don't understand the rules. You don't understand the process, and that's why you think they're doing it
what
wrong.
rule don't I
They're
understand?
criticizing them when we
What's
don't.
the rule? What's the rule? Chapter and
First we
verse.
have the zoning process, and if you go to the planning board meetings more often, you'll see how it's conducted, and it's done in a very
Yeah,
fair.
but you said I don't know the rules. What are the rules that I don't know? Chapter and verse.
Well, it's the zoning code. There's
right,
a-
that they themselves gave permission for this bozo to break.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did. They allowed him to circumvent the rules they already had in place to
See,
prevent.
that's why you
that.
don't understand the process and how it can happen.
I understand he was seeking permission to circumvent those rules.
No, you don't understand how the process works.
What
Yeah,
part
we're
of
there
that
to help.
is correct?
And with that help, we help them by assessing if there's impacts on the LWRP, assessing whether there's impacts on a wetland, assessing whether there's, endangered species. But once you start venturing off onto, telling them they're not doing their job and they don't know what they're doing, and we do, then we're in trouble.
I don't agree. I
know.
think these things are going to be inherently subjective because it deals with historic character and aesthetics,
yeah, but
which is a mandate of CAB.
Well, your reports are going to be embraced or they're not, and that's up to the writer. So, we're not going to have unanimity as a CAB. So, some reports are going to be taken some way and some
Right.
reports.
I'm fine with that, but I
Up to you.
don't believe that my report was rejected because of what my particular sentiments were.
Well, I think, no, I think it's the way you said it.
I don't think that somebody. So what you're saying is that if somebody had bent over backwards more to be diplomatic, they would have changed their ruling.
No, but see, it's not about them denying an applicant. You see, and that's where your report went wrong. It said it should be denied, and there's always ways to satisfy both sides. You have to, there's got to be a way to.
I went on that site visit, but Mark, the point of a site visit, especially one that's orchestrated for you to get out of the very mouth of the person who is the property owner. I went there and got out of this guy's mouth that it was take it or leave it. He was completely and utterly unwilling to concede to any alteration of what it was he was asking for permission for.
Well,
so
down the road, people change.
Why am I supposed to not then see that as a red flag? I'm supposed to meet him halfway?
Well, see, it's not really for us to make character judges, I don't think.
I'm not there to point of meeting the property owner then.
I'm not there at a site visit to judge the property owner. I'm there to look at the application and see the impacts of the project on the property and the surroundings.
Which is exactly what I did. And that's why I came to the conclusion that I did.
And the people don't need to get abused to come to get their anything approved. They don't need to go through an abusive process to get something approved in the town.
Well, apparently not, because they're going to disregard CAB's reports anyway.
Because if it's abusive, they don't want it. Get it away. Get it away. It doesn't help the process. So it's up to us whether we're going to be, have any credibility. It's up to us in our reports.
Yes, but credibility does not equate with toothlessness.
We don't need teeth. I don't understand why you need to sink teeth into anything. These reports,
because barbarians, Mark, are always at the gate. That's why.
I haven't seen a single project before us that really merited any strong emotions.
When COVID is over, then let me suggest that when COVID is over, we all take a field trip after this guy's fence is up and see if we think it deserves to be photographed for a Rhinebeck calendar.
Well, let's go around.
And if I like plastic fences, I don't.
Let's take pictures of everybody's yard that we don't like.
Okay. Actually, that would be.
Okay, I think we need to move on again. We're kind of getting off.
One of the things that Mike Trimble had brought up, which I think is useful in us moving forward with this, is that that CAB actually needs to speak in a single voice. So it's important for us to deliberate, and this back and forth, I think, is productive. If it happens before the report gets issued, before we give an opinion. We need to do that moderation, before it goes to press. Because I think that a lot of valid points are being raised. My own feeling is that particular project didn't involve a protected resource like a scenic road, and those are important aspects of our community. And that's what I'm on the lookout for is, where those impacts are taking place. And I think what George objected to more was it was outside of the black letter of the zoning law about setbacks for fences and the height and opacity of fences. And that had an impact on the neighborhood.
And it was ZBA unanimously approved it.
Which says a lot about the fact.
Says a lot about how you're out of sync with how the ZBA thinks.
Did they all read his report?
Yeah, none of them.
I'll tell you, I thought it was terrible, that report. I was like,
did they all read it, or?
Well, they were told they knew not to read it, not to bring it in.
They knew not to read. What is this? A 17th century puritanical gathering?
Come on, guys, let's get over this now, okay?
They knew not to read it.
Yes, because the chair read it and he said, "Look,
I was banned.
We don't want this."
Wow.
They accept it. They're professionals. They're professionals, George, and you're not. But anyway, so you had another report, George, and that was the one on the little slab on the side of the house.
Yes.
It was really not a big deal. Um,
Well, it had well, I mean, yeah, it's not a big deal in the scheme of Rhinebeck's built environment, but it was yet another example, though, of ineptitude.
so why, there you go. Ineptitude,
That is-
right? It's just very difficult to, you can't say that. Ineptitude to who? To who what?
Well, obviously, to their neighbor who's forced to look at the runoff from them not having gotten proper permitting permission with no oversight before they built all that. And it
People make
obviously
mistakes. You know,
has.
people do make mistakes. They're going through the process now.
Why take the side of the homeowner who has circumvented all of the process that's been put in place by the municipality? Why
I try
are
not
they
to take
right?
any sides. I try not to take any sides. I just try to present.
But,
what I see.
but that's evidence that you still have to weigh, Mark. Here's a homeowner who didn't bother to follow the process that would have entailed getting oversight. And they then ultimately did something that was not best practices. So why am I, in pointing that out, somehow a malicious?
Well, because first you
player here?
claimed it. Your first draft said you claimed it was due to lack of permit oversight.
Well, what I meant that in a complimentary form, that obviously if the municipality had been there and had been following it from the beginning before they built it, they would have pointed out to them that this problem was going to ensue because they were not concerned with what the erosion issues were going to be by in building it improperly.
By the way, the erosion is very minor, so it is a very minor issue. So
They just finished building it, and it's already started, and it's going down into the property line of the neighbor. What's it going to look like a year from now? I don't understand. Why give them a pass? Why give them a?
You know what? It's like I tried to bring it to his attention. You asked me to look at it. I took a look. I didn't go on site. I looked at it from the road because I wasn't there during a site visit. I looked at it from the road.
But you wouldn't have been able to see from the road that the
erosion. I could see it from the road. And I don't know why it was so difficult to just say that there was an erosion issue.
That's exactly what I did.
Corrected. No, it went a lot deeper. He talked about gutters and this and that. And
well, yeah, the building needs gutters.
I always say myself, I try not to be the one who, all you have to do is say there's an issue.
That's what I did. I said there were multiple issues.
But we'll see. And you said it must be corrected. I let that go. But I don't think.
Why should it not be? Why would Cav's official position be leave your fuck up alone? I don't understand. Why would that be our position?
Well, because I think we're not there to tell them what they must do. I think we're there to tell them what they should do.
Right.
That's all. I think we're advised. I think our advice comes across more strongly when we say you should do this, you should do that. But once you say I let it go, I let the must stay in. But I thought we shouldn't tell them what they must do.
Why?
Okay. I think what we need to do is everybody needs to review every report. If there's anything, we got to have this discussion, or either, through written stuff, or maybe a little quick meeting like this. So this way we all kind of agree what's going on. Because I know we each have a little bit of different personality and what they think our job should be. So maybe we need, like, if there's a report that's potentially controversial, that we need to hash it out before we send it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had easy ones, and I just present facts. I didn't, but I think that's what we might want to do in the future if we have the time, is when there's somebody writes something controversial, that maybe either we get together online or
frankly, I did not construe what I wrote as being controversial.
Again, I felt it was a little stronger than it needed to be. But first, I think if we stick to the outline of the samples that we have, if we stick to this report sample, it helps us a lot. I think that the background, we've been very light on the background. We should know what district, what zoning district is it in? What's the size of the lots? What road does it front on?
But none of that was lacking in my report
Yeah,
about
well-
that.
Oh, well, you know, I had to get it out of you. I think I know. I think I had to put a lot of it in. I had to.
No,
report-
and I
I
think
prefer to
that, you know,
report.
I misconstrued. I thought you meant the reports we're sending were lacking those things. No, I agree that it was vital that you did insert that in my report. And
But
I
it's
think
all in the sample, and if we follow the sample, and it also indicates, you know, you know, it's on a scenic road, you know, within the second paragraph, it indicates whether it's on a scenic road or in LWRP, and then, you know, all the, you know, those things that will eventually become the CAB findings. And then from the CAB findings, we list the findings. And I prefer myself, I think it's best that we list the positive findings, not say that it's not in the wetlands or it's not. You know, let's just say what it's in. It's if it's in the wetlands, let's say it's in the wetlands. We say whether there. I like to say whether there is a significant impact or no significant impact. I won't say there's no impact. I won't say there will be an impact because nobody knows for sure.
But
So
no,
it's safer.
here, no, that's not in the case of this particular on River Road. It was already failing. So
Yeah, but it's still minor, and it's not. You know, they'll fix it. They'll fix it. You just make it a point. All you have
How
to do
can
is
you
bring it to
say
their
that?
attention.
How can you say with certainty they're going to fix it? These are the same people who didn't bother to get a permit.
Well,
So,
they're
but
going
now
through the
you're
process
saying
now, and if they
they're
want to
gonna
get their
fix it.
approval, if they want to get their approval, you know, I'm sure Edna's going to say fix it.
I hope so.
Fix it.
She at the site visit was as incredulous as I was about these failings. So
Right,
I'm
but,
not,
you know,
I'm not alone. It's not some rogue contrarianism on my part.
Right, but still, you know, she's very tactful in the way she presents to the applicant. She might say something to you, but she's not gonna like. She's still gonna be nice in the
I
presentation.
wasn't mean. I don't think this report sounds mean. You really think this report
But, you
sounds
know,
mean?
very, very condescending, George. That's your nature.
No, but no, I know I am. That's fine. But this specific report that you're referring to about this slab down on Rhine Cliff Road, that was condescending.
It was going that way, and I think we cleaned it up a little bit, and it still had a little bit of air in there, which I let go. I didn't go as harsh on you, George, as I did on Craig. Although Craig, I still say that last report, the Garden Homes report, I think was probably the best of the year from the CAB, and I owe it to Craig because it was all of his background writing that he did.
That was the hardest one to do too, I think. The
Um,
most challenging.
But yeah, it's George. Yeah, it was going that way. You were trying to throw your digs. I don't know why it's hard to keep it simple. I gave you the write up, and I gave you an extra exhibit that you didn't use. It was the first thing I commented on after I visited the site on your request, and I said how I would describe the erosion thing, and I just said that they should correct it.
That's what I said. They should correct it. They need to
Yeah,
correct
but you're talking about like they should have gutters and this or that. Don't tell them how to fix it. Let them figure it out. It's not our job to tell them. I don't like gutters, and you can make a problem worse. So if we tell them what to do and it makes it worse, we're setting yourself up. Just let them fix it. And it will. We brought it to their attention. All you have to do is bring it to their attention, as we did. You noted it could cause an impact. Cole did one. Cole did a report on the
Performing Arts Center.
On the Performing Arts Center. Now I kicked that around to everybody because I know everybody's very opinionated and everybody has something to say.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay, can we move on now, maybe?
We're
I think
on
George
the
liked that
Performing
one
Arts
less
Center.
than I did.
We're on
Yeah,
the-
not a fan, but
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of functionalism, particularly with civic buildings. But would be it.
Yeah, I read the feedback that you had given George, and I didn't really quite understand, I guess. I mean, I don't have the same background as you do with architecture and everything, and it seemed like I tried to focus it more on the conservation, environmental impacts, and I didn't see it as much of, an eyesore or anything like that.
Let it be said in my defense that under no circumstances was I urging any of what I said to be included in the report.
Good. I was just trying to give you guys an opportunity to look at the project and, throw your 2 cents out. And
Right.
maybe there was something that Cole could have used. He would have included it. Usually, if you give me something descriptive, like in my reports, like if there's something historic, if you can tell me like something, how to describe a historic structure, in a better way than I might be. I think that's something that you're actually.
Yeah.
George.
That one was a tough one because the whole Performing Arts Center is kind of a kind of a bogus barn, supposed to look like rural architecture when it's really not, and that's that's kind of not kosher. You're kind of pretending, and that it's not on a scenic road. It doesn't involve a historic resource. There are a number of boxes that don't get ticked on that one. But one in particular is the need to preserve the rural character of the town, and this kind of doesn't do that, because it's pretending to be an agricultural building, which sort of confuses the wider context. So, but the addition that's on it, I don't think makes that circumstance any worse. I do wish that the architect had included an elevation of the entire building. And he just showed the elevation of the stage that they're putting on it, and that's a little bit disingenuous. But I don't know why they made that particular choice. But I don't think it's again, is that piece of it an impact? I don't think so.
You got something with architecture where beauty is really in the eye of the beholder, right? I mean,
No.
I'll give you an example, right? You ever a lot of people hate that glass pyramid that IMP did, right? I've been there, and I think it actually is a interesting thing. But giving our opinions on architecture is a tough one because we all have our own backgrounds, and
there's an enormous.
So the architect probably tried to make a pseudo-looking barn. I'm not defending. I'm just saying that it doesn't look like a regular local barn, but he's trying to make a little bit of a statement with the barn. I mean, it doesn't bother me the way it looks. And
I think it fits in.
The kind of things that are very, very subjective. And
saying that you like it or you don't like it is subjective, but saying that it conflicts or that it's dissonant with its surroundings or not compatible is less subjective.
Well,
it's a one is made of glass and one is made of stone. That is not subjective. Making those kinds of observations. Saying that this looks like a barn, but it's not a barn. It never was. I think is not a subjective statement.
Yeah, I mean that's a conceptual postmodernist conceit, and whether or not one places a premium on the virtue of authenticity in the built environment is going to sway you one way or the other as to how offended you are by that idea.
I think it's an interesting subject because it came up with the Rhinebeck villas, which they had created, proposed some structures that were going to be more Adirondack kind of mountain style. And the planning board's comments, in which George took offense to, was Mike Trimble's comments were, the Rhinebeck is trying to be more agricultural look. They try to preserve that agricultural look, and he was trying to suggest more of the Dutch barns look. So I kind of see how they, I know that there's some people would take offense to the faux thing.
He wanted to cloak a motel in a pseudo agricultural barn aesthetic.
Right, which is the same thing as the Performing Arts Center. And you know what? I think it fits in. I think it does a lot better than what they did. We talked about the sewage treatment plant in Pine Hill last time, because we were bringing up, which is owned by New York City, and they spent an extra $10 million to make it look like barns. It was supposed to be one big concrete building, and the guy with the deli across the street was complaining. So they spent an extra $10 million and they made it look like barns. And of course, it's silly, it's a sewage treatment plant. Some people think
the cell tower that they try to make look like a really big pine tree with it's a tower and they kind of put branches on it.
Exactly.
That's a pine tree.
Yeah, but But you know what? They're gonna build their thing. Or we'll see if they even build it, right, Cole? It's like they say the pandemic might be over before they even need it.
With the Performing Arts Center.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the planning board seemed like they had no reservations about approving their request, but yeah, I think they said that they wouldn't have it ready until April or so. And yeah, I don't know, who knows, by then they might not need it so much, but you know, it is still like a good alternative. They were using their outdoor space to do some outdoor shows over the summer. And maybe they'll want to pursue that. I think that they had good attendance at those shows, so they might want to continue pursuing that even after the pandemic.
Now, one thing I hadn't mentioned to Cole was what I hope they don't think now they're not going to plan on doing events with 2 stages, because that could bring in a lot more people and that would really warrant more parking. But we'll see how that plays out. Hopefully that doesn't become an issue.
Yeah, well, I think the part of the meeting that I heard when the drawings were presented, so before we got the job, they were saying that the cars for the performances are going to be in a different spot than they use for the proper parking for indoor attendance. So even if they were to do that, they would still have people park on the grass. Is that right, Cole?
Yeah, so I think that their plan while doing these outdoor performances was to have people park on the grass, almost sort of like a drive-in sort of thing. And I think they tune in on their radio to listen while they watch. I mean, I suppose it could still be a problem. I think if they were to have 2 shows going on at the same time, I just personally didn't see that, you know, knowing the Performing Arts Center, it seems like the putting on 2 shows at the same time just didn't seem very realistic, you know, given their, you know, capabilities. I think that it's probably difficult enough to put on I think that they probably are working on 1 show at a time.
Right.
Yeah, well, one of the funny things about infrastructure is institutions have a tendency to grow into it. So, you know, if they have that space, they might find a way to get, you know, invite a local troupe from, you know, a neighboring town. Oh, come and use our space. We've got indoor and outdoor. And, you know, programs can expand if the opportunity is there. So just that, you know, the fact that they don't have capability at this point in time doesn't mean that it's not going to arise in like 5 years. But I am speculating wildly.
Well, and you know what will happen? We'll find out, because if they start holding events and they can't handle the parking, it's going to create a problem, and then they're going to have to deal with it. That's usually.
Yeah, I would hope they would take that into consideration if they were going to increase their capacity or.
Yeah. And, you know, and if they got to that point, I would think they would be very, very happy, because, you know, everybody's trying to survive. And if they were doing that well, that they, you know, needed more parking, then that would probably be a good sign for the Performing Arts Center, and hopefully they deal with it. There was a couple other applications that came before us. One was for a lot line adjustment, and then the other one was a single family dwelling. I guess we kind of historically, the whole past year, kind of passed on lot line adjustments, like it wasn't really worth our time.
Yeah, I didn't really see anything for us in that.
Yeah. The single family dwelling, I wasn't at that meeting, so I don't know what that's about. And I didn't even look at the plans. And nobody jumped on that one. I don't know if anybody wanted it.
Was that on Rhinecliff Road?
Might be.
That came in just like a week ago, didn't it? The lot line adjustment has been out there for like a month.
Came out before the first of the year, I think, right?
Yeah, and then there's a Rhinecliff Road one that's like butts up onto the gardens.
Is that what it is?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, well, I don't know. That would be one George would want, I would think. It's his neighborhood.
They impact the walkway.
Maybe. So, but nobody's jumping on it. Nobody wants it.
Yeah,
Don't worry about it.
This
Huh?
is
I've been out of commission for a couple of weeks. I had minor surgery, so I haven't, that's why I haven't taken anything.
No problem.
Starting the week after next week, I should be able to jump on them, and I'll go on the next one. Hopefully a harder one than the ones I've been taking.
No, it's all good. And if we miss a few, I'm not going to worry about it. I felt like we've been doing all right. Nobody wants to grab it. We don't have to do it.
is this Gardens one the one that was the most recently punted to us?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't. I regret I haven't looked at that one yet. It's possible I could do that.
Okay. Well, if somebody wants it, grab it. And remember, if it's most likely that would be in the LWRP.
Yeah.
Right. If it's west of the village.
Yep.
West of Route 9, south of the village, west of Old Post Road, north of the village. That's LWR. They call it LWRA, which means it's in the LWRP.
Right.
So those, do we want to look at it, or are we okay? I mean,
I think all that there was in it was the site plan. I mean, there were no details about, the nature of the dwelling.
I'm very detailed. I'm looking at it right now.
It is going to be on a scenic road.
I'm missing. I don't know what I did. Oh, here it
Can
is.
you share the screen there, Cole? If you're looking at it.
Yeah. Oh, where are you on your computer?
Sure.
Yeah, you share it.
I need permission from the host, it looks like.
Oh.
I mean,
Fred will give you permission. You just click share screen. It's at the bottom. It says share. No. Is that what?
yeah, I hit share screen. It says,
Yeah.
But I mean, that's all right. It gives like the aerial site plan. It doesn't have any sort of like rendering or anything of what the house would look like. It's just sort of mapped out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, not very descriptive as to what the nature of it is.
I think there were more details again concerning sewage treatment, because I think the big thing is they're building a big sand mound for the elevated leach
Septic
field.
field?
Yeah, and the setback is supposed to be a 10-foot setback, and they don't have the lot size to put in the kind of, the dimension of the system that they need is going to encroach on the lot line. So I think they're applying for a variance for that, because the slope of the embankment comes within that 10-foot of the neighboring property.
So there's probably wetland, right? Probably near there too.
I don't think there is. Cole, is there?
Not show there.
Well, on their application, I think they checked no, but that's not always very reliable.
Because it is very. I looked at a house along that road, like between Rhine Cliff Road and the gardens, and there was like a swamp in the backyard, but I don't think it's on the wetlands inventory even.
Wait, okay, I think I've got it on my screen. Let me see if I can share mine. Let's see if it works. Do that one. Share. You see that?
Ah, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
I can't see it. I can't really. I don't know if I can zoom in.
You should be able to.
You can do Control Plus maybe.
Oh, there it is.
There you go. Yeah.
So I guess those highlighted trees are going to be cleared.
I don't really see this in relation to everything else. Like, but there's an area map up there. Oh, I gotta get rid of this so I can get up there.
It shows Rhine Cliff Road on the bottom.
It's like, okay, it's like almost, see, I'm looking at this map over here, so it's almost to Rhine Cliff Road. You say you see it down at the bottom? Or
Yeah.
almost a river road. It's almost a river road. It's like maybe a few lots that would be east of River Road.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying, oh, that this right here,
They're supposed to have a
of course,
10
their
foot.
system, you see, their system is all in.
Yeah.
But
It looks like a raised bed system, right?
Yeah.
Like probably they had to bring in fill. That's what it looks like to me.
it might be all wet in there. It's
And
pretty low.
That box with the X through it, that's for expansion, right?
Yes, you're supposed to have, you're supposed to have 100% expansion,
100% expansion.
dies in 30 years, yeah. Yeah, my guess is if there's water back there, that they probably, I know a little bit about septic fields, that they probably had to raise it because when you dig your test holes, you got to be so many, the top of the field's got, or the field's got to be so many feet above a water. If they hit water when they dug down 4 feet, they may have to have raised the septic field 2 feet so they're 4 feet above it. There's rules like that.
Yeah.
Dutchess, well, actually New York State in general, because I've done a few. So
Yeah, and we're
it's
doing
all raised up. Yeah,
we're doing
I mean,
2 systems at Vanderbilt, and that we were told the same thing. One of our systems is fine, a lot of nice deep soil, but one of them we hit rock at like 20 inches, and
yeah, rock's another thing that causes you have to build the system up.
Yeah,
You need, I think it's like 4 feet of
water,
good material. Yeah,
and then 2 feet below grade.
right.
So you got to bring the grade up to whatever that amount is.
Yep.
But yeah, I think the issue is the lot line setback, because that whole, I don't think any part of the system can be within 10 feet of the lot line without seeking a variance. And then a lot of trees are coming out.
Yeah, I don't.
Looks like they don't have a choice in the matter there. And by the way, that 10 feet starts from 6 feet from the center line of the outside of the last line. It's not from where the berm is, I believe.
Yeah, it's at the top of slope. It's a system, and this is just so they can grade it back down. To
Right. Yeah. You don't have. It's not 6 feet. The berm doesn't have to be 10 feet from the property line. I think it's the field itself. The last.
Right.
Well, what is it
have to be
right under your cursor? There's something highlighted there. What does that say?
It says all trees within 10 feet of the
That's another.
OS shall be out, goes down,
Yes.
flush with grade.
That is another requirement. That
10 feet of the what? Oh, what is SOS?
Okay, and up in the box in the upper left, you just zoomed in past it, right under where it says site plan. Waiver required from Dutchess County Health Department for bottom of berm less than 10 feet from property lines.
Okay.
So that's what I was going by. I'm not just pulling these things out of my butt as it seems.
Right. But it's there. I mean, see, and when I see that, then it makes me think like, okay, it's in the hands of the health department. So they, it's like they see that, like it's not, and they're the ones who can, if they grant the waiver, I feel like and as long as it's within, if it goes to ZBA for any reason, but if they grant the waiver, then I usually wouldn't have a problem. And I'm not usually trying to go out against the other, authorities who usually know better than me. All right. Let me see how I can get back. No.
You want to unshare?
Yeah, I have to get the screen, like
Up at the top, there's a new option, stop sharing.
It got small on me. The Zoom window is now small, and I don't have all of. Oh wait, what's that one? How do I make it get big again? Oh, that's no good. Made it smaller.
Try turning it off and then on again.
Oh, here we go. Wait a minute. can't. It's giving me a window that doesn't give me the stop sharing button. Oh, there it is. Stop share up there.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So Gabby, how have you been?
Good.
We missed you.
Crazy. Yeah, I miss you. I miss you guys too. It's just been crazy. Like the pandemic, it's
Yeah.
all the kids, and now we have a puppy, and it's just kind of complicated for me to.
You gotta love the puppy.
Yeah, but I see that there's a lot of things to discuss.
Yeah.
It's been busy.
Well, you're still hanging in there with us, though, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I feel bad because I haven't been, present. But I'll do my best to jump in here and there and just be, get through this.
Yeah, we appreciate
stage.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
Yeah.
We had talked about thinking it was important to attend the planning board meetings, and I attended because Edna asked me to. She asked me to read in that report on the garden homes.
Yeah.
And, again, it wasn't that difficult. If we want to do that, I'm speaking to kind of everybody now. If we want to do that, it's up to us, really. If all we got to do is come up with a schedule, a rotating schedule of who's, when we get at the meetings, and we don't need to summarize. You don't need a synopsis of the reports. You just read the report. I just printed out the reports before the meeting so that I could, when they said to CAB, you don't want to read the report. You don't read the whole report. You just, hit up on the highlights and then you can move on. So that's up to us if we wanted to do that. So Craig likes to lurk. He doesn't like to be a CAB rep. He just likes to lurk.
Yeah.
He's still kind of getting the feel of it. But that's, I think more important than, being at the meetings is writing good reports. And if we write a good report, we'll probably be invited they'll want us to attend the meeting, to present it. But otherwise, they have the report. It's up to us. It's their meetings go pretty long, and they have 2 a month. So that adds a lot more time.
Yeah.
So I never see anybody jumping at it. Last month, people mentioned it.
Are they meeting physically now?
That's every 3 months. That's not bad.
It's all Zoom. Zoom. And the schedule is on the planning board's website, and it's usually on the town board's, the town homepage. It usually is. It's usually coming up close enough that it's right on the front homepage with the agenda.
The recorded meetings are available too. I've had trouble finding the most recent ones. I haven't looked in a while, but I will say that the CAB meetings are up right away.
Really?
All of our meetings are posted. Yeah, Fred's doing a bang up job.
Oh, there you go. See?
I was going to say, it's probably due to him, right?
That's Fred's doing a good job. So, and obviously that's all our minutes that we're getting, because we don't have meeting, we don't have agenda.
Secretary, yeah.
We don't have a log, and it's just our reports that we've been doing. And Craig, hopefully, you said, I forget your wife's name again. Hopefully, Melissa. Hopefully she gets her application in.
Yeah.
We need her.
Yeah.
I don't think the town is going to help us.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I found helpful, and I know that there's a kind of teething trouble getting this going, but I think we should stick with it and make it work for us, is passing around the Google Docs where we can actually just, make our edits and, send things out instead of having to pass a draft back and forth and then rewrite it. If we can keep that going as a living document, for each of these, you see something that you think it's a mistake, you can just tell the person in an email, or you make the change and say, I changed this to that because it's in the area, it's not in the area, it's on a scenic road, it's not, and that way it's more from all of us. But the one challenge that I'm finding is that people who are not on Gmail, it depends on how you send it out. I think I sent the report out with anyone who had the link could access the document and edit and make changes. Mark, if I had just shared it as a Google Doc, you would have been able to get it, but George probably wouldn't have been able to see it because he's not on Gmail. So it's got to be one or the other. And I think sending it out with the link, which is, I think, what Gretchen does, she sends a link out. It's still, it's to a Google Drive, but anyone with the link can access the drive.
Okay. Well, it certainly was very
I
helpful.
think there is, yeah. Does it lock other people out when one person's editing it? Because I don't have much experience, but
No.
multiple people, the problem you get is if multiple people are editing at the same time, you could
I've signed up to use
a
editing.
little bit of a mess. Because I know in my professional career, those kind of issues happen when we doing stuff online and stuff. So
Craig was
that's the only.
Craig was watching me edit George's report.
Yeah, we were both in it at the same time.
Cursor, and you can see my cursor.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
And he was like, he was reading what I had just did.
It was like
It
Pac-Man.
was kind of interesting.
Okay, so it does do, okay, but it probably locks you out from making changes too. Wow.
It became useful.
Simultaneously make changes? I was just curious, that's how, because I haven't really worked with it.
Yeah, I
Depends on
still
how you share it.
how
If
to
you share
put
it,
things onto it, but it was
Allow
very
it.
useful. I missed Fred. Yeah, it was very useful. It did make the process more of the workshop, So, I mean, really, because George has been asking for the workshop, but the workshop we're in real time workshop. And that got us kind of together and kind of got us more in that workshop mode. But again, follow the sample report, and then that usually will keep us in the safe zone. And even the tone of the sample report, just the way it reads, it's, try to keep it kind of similar. I think we're safe. Let's see, George, you would like to always. Well, I had heard nothing on the walkways since we last. Well,
I don't recall now. I don't think this transpired. I think this transpired after we last met, so maybe this would be news to people. But there was a climate smart talk open to the public that the town provided access to for people. I think that was last month, right?
That's the one That's the one, right? That what's his thing?
That Vanessa
right, and they had
the Bard fellow presided over. They had let us know that this event was coming up. I don't know if anyone besides myself actually filled out Vanessa's survey at her.
I filled it out.
Urging. You did? Okay, good.
I filled it out.
Very good. Well, for anybody who didn't attend that meeting, I can tell you that I was very impressed with the amount of enthusiasm and commitment that Elizabeth Spinzia had for ushering in this sidewalk endeavor. She was very committed to it. So, that was encouraging to me. I could also mention on that front that now that I have been made chair of the Buildings and Grounds Committee of the Star Library, that comes with the subhead or subtitle of being the liaison to the Mazzarella Park Committee. And in that capacity, I did have a meeting last week with Rick Lewitt, the deputy mayor of the village, who himself is the official village board liaison to Mazzarella Park. So he is very enthusiastic, as I am, about ways in which the park could be improved. So to that end, I authored a hopefully he won't find too lengthy and boring write-up of what I would think are some sort of high impact at relatively low cost initiatives akin to what I had discussed with you all about, walkability and benches and more appealing looking pedestrian entrances into the park.
and I am awaiting word from him about what he made of that. And I'm optimistic that he maybe will find one or two of those things appealing enough that we'll figure out a way to make them happen.
Good. That's good.
That's great.
Positive stuff. What else? Well, you know, the gist of that Climate Smart, it was basically kind of they had that an intern, I forget his Dave Chernick was his name. He went through the comprehensive plan for both the village and the town, and I think they all kind of acknowledged that the village's comprehensive plan is out of date, and that the town's comprehensive plan is getting old, and usually you kind of update them every 10 years. The gist was that the town really doesn't want to go through that same process they had done 10 years ago. I guess they spent a lot of money on that comprehensive plan back then. And they don't want to do that again, but they like the idea of updating the plan that they have, somehow amending what they have, and potentially it sounded like maybe bringing the village into that plan, so that that would help the village update their plan. So we'll see how that works out, and that intern, I guess, is being hired by the town as like some sort of a sustainability coordinator of some sort.
I learned from Rick Lewitt in that discussion that there had been an initiative. I don't know when this had been floated or exactly why it never came to be, but there was some call for a so-called streetscape commission or committee who would be essentially bringing under the umbrella of that the disparate attempts to inventory all of the trees in the village, assess their condition. You know, we do have a tree committee who have been involved in that. That's actually how we got some of the trees recently planted in Mazzarella Park on Star's property. And so that would have brought them together with people who are desirous of seeing the historic bluestone sidewalks restored properly, and you know, other initiatives that have to do with, you know, shared walkable spaces in the village. My wife and I were invited last Friday to a Zoom meeting with John Rossi because of us being business owners in the village. As you may know, he's running against, well, he would like to become the Democratic mayoral candidate for the village this year. So to that end, he's sort of he's trying to, you know, gain momentum for his candidacy by meeting with local business owners. So I did mention my enthusiasm to see you know, progress made on the sidewalk endeavor to Rhinecliff, which he expressed his enthusiasm for. He did also bring up that he was adamantly opposed to anything that would involve putting in unnecessary parking lots in Mazzarella Park on Trevor Lane.
Good.
He said that he had been horrified at the process by which
He's just a candidate, so we'll, you know,
right
now still.
Yeah, he did say if he doesn't get the nomination, he will run against Gary as an independent. So he'll be, you know, he'll be running regardless of how it plays out.
We'll see how that plays out. I think Gary's probably pretty popular.
Yeah,
a lot of work in the village.
So just to let you know where he stands on that front, he is supportive of the sidewalk to Rhinecliff as far as I could ascertain, and he is against the parking lot at Trevor Lane.
Okay. Anything else that we should bring up as a board? I'm going to reach out to Ed Roberts. I CC'd him on our invitation to this meeting. We still have a couple members who haven't been in name only, and see if we can try to, you know, push them one way or the other.
It came actually as quite a startling surprise to me to hear in a recent library board meeting the name of Amy Wu mentioned. I have to profess ignorance that I was unaware that she does have a very limited role at Star Library. I believe she occasionally assists with the dissemination of some kind of their website outreach or programming or something. I've obviously never met her, and wouldn't recognize her despite her, in effect, being a member of CAB. So I don't know if you want me, because of this connection at Star, to talk to her and gauge her enthusiasm for whether she's committed to helping us this year or not. I'm
If
happy
you'd
do
like
that.
to, I mean, I certainly could, but I'm not that eager to.
All right. Well, I'll make a point of doing that and see what becomes of it. If I can make one last additional plug on the library's behalf for anyone who may care, now that we've wrapped up our surveying of the community with regards to potential expansion plans, the architect that we have hired is going to be holding a We Heard You a Zoom event in the very near future. The date I don't think has been announced yet, but that will be in a couple weeks time, at which time he will let everybody in the community hear the results of his stakeholder meetings and how the library is reacting to that information.
But no draft, no conceptual drafts or anything yet.
No, that's the next phase. So yeah, so he'll move on to then beginning to come up with some plans that we can present to the public.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, should I move to close the meeting? I'll move.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Yay.
Yay. Aye.
Yep.
Okay. All right. It's good to hear and see everybody.
Thanks,
And
guys.
we'll